I just picked this engine up for $200. They said that the fuel tank was leaking and it melted this side of the cowling. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. Did this get hot and melt this? I don't really know. So we're going to try and look at that. I think the engine's going to run. Not really a problem with it running. I have a bigger concern with the engine, and that being, if I look under here, you see all that? That's all engine oil. So I've got engine oil leaking out of here. It's going down to there. You can see those spots. It's leaking oil. Now it does show that there's oil in the sight glass here. So it's not that it doesn't have engine oil. It's whether or not it is over full, or if there's another problem that I'm not really seeing. So what I need to do is I need to undo that knot, get this cowling off of here, so that way I can really do some more investigating and figure out whether or not, one, I can get it to run, but will it stay running and not blow up? That's my bigger concern because of the oil leak. I don't see anything down there. So I'm going to start taking stuff apart and kind of inspect and figure out where that oil leak is coming from. So I really want to see down around the bottom of this thing, but the thing is, you can't get down here to see anything. I mean, I guess if I take these two bolts out here, I could probably pull this whole thing off and then drop this plastic piece. I don't know, I'm not really sure. Maybe these, I just take those out and then this whole, I could lift the whole power head up off of this. Right now, I really do not know, so I'm gonna pick some bolts, I'm gonna take them out, and I'm gonna try and get this thing open. So alright, so I was able to take the carburetor and the fuel tank off in one piece. I just disconnected this linkage here, which is the choke control. I couldn't get this thing out. I mean, I didn't really try that hard, but all I did was disconnect this lever right here, disconnect this, and I got that piece out of there. This is pretty wide open. I can see a lot of stuff, but I still can't really see what's going on down here and where all this oil is coming from. My guess is that because this right here is where the oil is, maybe they spilled it, but at the same time, if they spilled oil here, you can see there's not much oil there. Like there's no, that's extremely dry. I don't see any oil there. So I don't think that that's true, at that being it. And also, I mean, is that my oil drain right there? Looks like it. So somewhere in here is where I'm leaking, because it's all right here. It's coming out the front here, like right there. That's, see that drip? That's where all the oil is coming out of, and it's all over this whole side over here. All right there, all coming, all this leaking down. I mean, that you can see an actual drip right here. You can see drips, like that's an actual drip. So it's pouring out of this side right here. So you know, I can see it right there, but I don't know where it's coming from. All down in there, that's probably all lube that was sprayed in there to lube the cable. But I still want to get a little bit deeper. Let me continue pulling. I'm gonna try and get this black thing off of here, and once I get this black shroud, that should give me a little bit more sight into stuff. Alright, so if you look in here, you can see the exhaust, like this tube. If you follow this tube down, It kind of goes down and it goes out right there. So it's my new assumption that the oil that I'm seeing is just a bunch of exhaust, and this thing has probably been it was probably overfilled. Here's a vent right here, so this right here is some kind of a overflow. I have to think about what that tube is there, but that's getting oil out there. But a lot of the oil that's all right here is just coming out the exhaust. So probably this thing got overfilled with oil, but a lot of it comes from up here. So this is leaking down on all this stuff. Inside here is a bunch of splatters back down in there from the exhaust. So I got a bunch of oil from the exhaust right there. So I think this thing just got overfilled with oil, and that's all that is. I do not see any kind of heat, which means that this right here, all that is it really is that the fuel or something, this got set into something which ate the paint and the all that off of the cowling. So that's all it is. It's not really a heat issue. So I think we're good to go as far as that goes. I think before I put this thing together, I'll probably clean out this carburetor a little bit just to get it, you know, before I put it on there. A lot of rust on there. I want to get all that rust off there, get some oil on this thing to kind of clean it up. And as well, I'm going to clean this up while I've got it all like that. I kind of want to take the power head off of here just to do it, so I can kind of clean it off a little bit better, because it's in this housing here that you can't really do anything with. So it looks like I got a couple Allen keys there, and then some 10s or 12s right there, probably 12 millimeters. I just gotta take those off, and this whole power head would come out. Well, I am hung up on something, so let me go pull a manual and look at some instructions to figure out maybe there's a key that's locking me to the drive shaft or something that's not allowing me to pull this all the way. I mean, I ain't got that much space, but so it looks like I got to remove the exhaust pipe from the engine and remove the air guide plate. So I need to get those two things right there off. Yeah, that right there. I need to get this off of there, I guess, and then that should free me up to pop this biscuit off of there. Wow. Well, look at that dusty biscuit. That is some straight rust dust. So I'm gonna suck all that stuff out of there. Oh, that exhaust pipe goes all the way down into that like that. So maybe all this oil was not from that. So that's interesting either way. But I'm more trying to figure out, how can I get this plastic off of here? Like, how is this possible outside taking the handle off? And then even when you take the handle off, this is still, that's going to be a stretch to get off of there. I want to clean all this rust out of here and get all that cleaned up and lubed up, and then I'll put this thing back together. And yeah, I'll clean all this. I'll figure out how to clean this up. I don't know how, because I can't get this thing off of here without doing some more disassembly. But so this is pretty interesting. I don't know if this is like a magnet or like how exactly this, maybe it's force, but as this spins, this maybe opens up, and that's what connects this, which propels the propeller. Very, very interesting that there is no like actual connection between the engine and the propeller. It is just straight up this, I don't know what this is. Like, I guess this opens up as it spins. As the engine spins freely on here, this is the crankshaft, and it has this spring. Maybe this opens up, and that's what's creating all that rust around there. But this is what drives your propeller. So that's very interesting. I've never seen anything like that, but yeah, pretty weird. Alright, so it looks like I should be able to break free this apparatus from here, though I don't know the connection between this and that is. Otherwise, this right here, this whole handle deal, in order to get this off, this has to get separated. So I don't know if I can. Maybe I just take this bolt right here and that bolt off and see what dropping this does. If that releases this right here to pull it off, but I don't understand how I wouldn't be able to just pull straight up on this as is. So we're gonna have to figure out this transmission situation here. Well, it appears I'm gonna have to go do a little bit more reading, because I mean, I could separate this a little bit, like I can get a gap in there, but I don't know. I'm missing something. There's got to be, maybe there's a pin that I gotta push or something. There's something I'm missing here as far as being able to pull this and that and get that separated, because this is, I mean, connected somehow. I don't know if it's pressed or what. So let me go do a little more reading before I break something that I don't want to break and I don't want to have to spend money on repairing. So looking at this, it appears that I'm just on the shift shaft right here, and that after you take the handle off, which I'll do that after the fact, I just want to get this to kind of pop off. I can take that off, but it looks like it's just the shift shaft here to the lower unit, so this thing should pop off easy peasy style. Okay, got this piece off, but now in order to, it was just stuck on that shift shaft, but now to get this thing out of here with the exhaust, to leave the exhaust in there and get this pan off, I'm gonna have to take this cable out, which I had to just move this over like that, so that way I could take this and slide it up out of that groove right there. But now it looks like I gotta take this rubber piece off and take this nut here off in order to get this cable out, because I can't pull it straight up. It's got to be, you have to take the nut off and then pull it through. So that's what I got to do for that, and then I'll be able to just work the handle out. That way I don't have to take the actual handle off and disconnect more than I really need to. I mean, I might do that, but we'll see. Main thing is I want to get this pan off and get this thing out, so that way I can kind of clean stuff up and be able to put this thing back together nice and clean. Also, it said I'm not supposed to grease this thing, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute, because there's a couple things I want to point out there. Well, that spoils that plan. Looks like I can't do that, so I am gonna have to take the handle off, because this cable here, I'd have to disassemble this whole thing, and I don't really feel like doing that, so I'm just going to take the nut off of there, pull the handle off, and I can pull all this stuff apart. So there's nothing holding this lower unit on here, but I don't know, it's still pretty stuck, so I don't know if I'm going to drop that all the way out. I can at least grease this all up when I put this back on. Though, interesting, it said not to grease this in here or lubricate it, which I did when I was cleaning it. Funny thing, look at that. I mean, is that like from the factory. Like, that's a pretty odd thing inside this. Honestly, that looks like a manufacturer defect, if you want my opinion. I don't think someone was in here doing, well, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Who knows what that is, if someone's tried to repair something, or I don't know what the deal is with that. But this thing's pretty simple. Kind of just got the spline shafts that go up into here, and that thing spins when you spin this. How it really, you know, links onto there with these magnets, that's kind of interesting. But nonetheless, let me go ahead. I want to clean all this, get this thing all cleaned off. I'll clean off the power head a little bit, clean this whole thing off, clean the handle, put all this stuff back together so it's nice and clean. And then we will see. I'll probably end up cleaning the carburetor, and then once that's clean, maybe dump the gas, put some new gas in there, check the oil and all that kind of stuff. And I might investigate the lower unit coming off, maybe not, but at least this way I can get everything nice and clean and lubed up properly, put it back together, and we'll see if this thing will run and be good for the long term. So I got my bracket pretty well cleaned up. The way I'm happy with this. I got this part all cleaned up, nice and shiny, good to go. The inside's relatively clean. I'll wipe it out once again once I reassemble it. But this thing's kind of going to be a pain. I've sprayed it with degreaser, but realistically, I think I might just go get some contact cleaner just to spray it off, because it's a lot easier. I just don't have enough precision cleaner. It's going to be a lot easier to do this and have that be looking like that than it is for me to get in here with a rag and try and do this whole thing with a rag. What that's going to do to the plastic, I'm not sure, but I can come back with some kind of a CRC or a lubricant that's going to help the plastic. But for right now, I just need to get all this grease and stuff out of here. So I'm actually pretty low on my Awesome. I'm going to go get some more Awesome, get some contact cleaner, and we'll spray this thing out. Once that's sprayed out, we can go ahead and reassemble the handle with the, this is, I guess is the clutch assembly. The clutch assembly, handle, that bottom plate, boom, that'll be back together. And then I can clean the power head, put the power head back on, and then we'll clean our carb and put that on there and make this thing run and be happy with it. Okay, there we go. I know that some of you are not going to be happy about that. A little bit of contact cleaner on my metal here. Get that off of my paint. So, like I said, I know some of you are not going to be happy about this. This was, I just smoked a can of contact cleaner, and that's how I cleaned this entire thing. And this is the result. For me, personally, I was looking at the time factor, and this is a great result, and all it cost me was a $5 can of contact cleaner. This took me 7 minutes to do, so it cost me $5 to get these results. Oh, I need to wipe that little smudge off there, but other than that, I probably could have just soaked a towel opposed to trying to spray the gunk off. But that means this thing is done, that's done, so I can put this, that, and the handle back onto my midsection, get my engine kind of back together with the exception of the power head. So that's what we're doing. We're moving on to putting this stuff together. Okay, we got our handle all cleaned up, got our clutch mechanism, or our transom, or not transom, but transmission, whatever you want to call this. I'd say is clutch mechanism because that's what engages your prop. But we got that done. Lubed up this, got our throttle cable all nice and pretty, Boom, all lubed up, working beautifully. So now I need to clean the exhaust shield plate, the power head, and get this power head put back on here, so that way we can put our bolts through there into the power head, get it kind of stuck on there. I might even put a little bit of grease around this ring right here, not inside here but around the outside, that way power head fits on there nice and neat and easy. Clean both of these up, stick them on there, and then we will be able to go ahead and clean our carburetor and start this engine, see how she runs. Okay, she is looking beautiful now. I've got everything pretty well cleaned up. I don't have any shine. Normally I like to end it with some of the step 2 protect, some of that gunk shine, but just the degreaser, some brake clean, and yeah, this looks a lot better. Now let me go ahead and stick this back onto here and bolt everything up. Once I get it all bolted up, then we will be able to move on to the carburetor. Okay, we got the plastic on there. I need to put the spark plug back in here. Got my wire for the ignition coil all up there. I need to probably push this down a little bit, get that nice and tucked in there, but that's that. Need to put the plug in, put this piece on, and then we can clean the fuel tank, put the fuel tank back onto the engine, and we'll be left with our carburetor situation here, which shouldn't be too bad to deal with. That's interesting that this goes just straight into the cylinder from the carburetor, basically just like right into an intake runner into the cylinder. That's pretty interesting. I didn't notice that earlier, but yeah, let me put the fuel tank and that stuff on there and get this thing the rest of the way back together. Okay. So our carburetor is actually relatively clean on the inside and in the bowl. I mean, the bowl was actually not that bad. I mean, I've sprayed it out so it is a little shinier, but for the most part, there's nothing not too bad as far as dirty. So I'm gonna put this back together and we'll turn the fuel on and see if this thing starts. Looks good to me, baby. Okay, so I have a new concern. You see my hand is covered in oil. This air box is full of oil. So I am wondering, the oil issue most likely has to do with this, but there is that vent line here. So I wonder if something is going on with the rings where I'm getting compression into the crankcase of the engine, which is then creating that pressure to push the oil out if it didn't get overfilled, which is very possible. Somebody probably overfilled it, and then when they overfilled it, it you know, creates more pressure and then pushes that oil out, fills this air box full of oil, and then that's where my oil leak is coming from. So I'm going to take this back off, dump the oil out of the air box, and then I will put it back on there and we'll start running the engine. I don't think this part was supposed to come off of there, so I might just snap that piece. I don't know, like, it looked like this has been opened before to get that filter out of there. Kind of hard to see. There we go. See, there's a screen in there and a filter, but I don't know. I'm gonna wipe this thing off, put it back on there, and call it a day with that. Let me wipe this thing off, because honestly this thing doesn't look terrible at all until you see this side of the cowling. So turn the fuel on there, and yeah, let's start and run and see if this thing will start up and idle smoothly. It is air cooled, so I don't need any water, but I can only run it so long inside. I'll have to take it outside to let it run for a long time, but let's see if it at least starts and runs. Man, this thing's a little kitty cat first pull. I didn't even barely do anything at all. So, yeah, this is actually really not. Whoops. Let me do that again. Runs great. When you advance the throttle, that clutch thing opens up and starts to grab your prop, which is pretty intense. Do like that. Running great. So the only thing I really need to do is disassemble this thing and check out that oil leak. But at least for now, I'll do something. I'll figure out. I got to repaint the cowling in order to, you know, make it look clean. I need to repaint the cowling. But I will probably take this motor back apart, and I kind of want to disassemble the entire thing. But this is going to be great. Like I said, I'm going to disassemble it. I should probably do a leak down test to see if I am leaking down as far as you know, getting crankcase pressure based on it going past the rings and pushing oil into my intake, which is what's causing that oil leak. But other than that, this is a good little engine for $200, that's for sure.